Welcome to Book of Engen. Here we are. God knows where we are in the shelter in place. We know we're here till end of April. People are concerned, rightfully so, because we don't know. Nobody knows. I don't know. You don't know. They don't know either. They don't. We're all guessing. We're just hoping for the best. I now hear on social media some friends are losing distant friends, or some jazz legends suffered from some of the complications that coronavirus has brought and passed away. Excuse me. Here we are. But before this coronavirus, we made everything very, very difficult among ourselves to be a community. There's a certain group, a large group that represents, if you look at the voting polls, half of the America, which I doubt, that made questioning things difficult. And if you were to question something, just here is the purpose of questioning on day-to-day life. You question things because you are trying to obtain data. Excuse me. You're trying to find out more about that subject matter. But right before this coronavirus, we have reached as a community to a place where questioning things were deemed devilish or wrong, and as a sociopath, just because you're questioning something, you were immediately deemed anti whatever you're questioning. How else do people expect to gain information if you're not questioning things? If you're in a place where you can't ask questions. People blame the universities and for coddling students and whatnot, but not being able to question things and curbing the person who is willing to question things is it's a corporate tradition, corporate environment tradition. Because corporate environment is extremely insecure. Everybody's worried about their seat, and everybody's worried about the next move they hope to make so they can move to a higher seat than the existing seat. So if anybody questions a particular part of your job or department, all those questions are either answered with immense amount of insecurity because the notion is that they're being interrogated, or they're actually not doing a good job, thus the insecurity, so they lash out, and by creating this distorted environment, they feel they are deflecting the question. Now, all this stuff was happening during our normal lives. Normal lives when we were leaving for work on Monday and, looking forward to the weekend. In that group of an environment where we aimed to behave in a certain way so people would like us so we can keep our jobs. I've been at the opposite end of this spectrum so many times, not because I don't care about whether people like me or not, but I'm not willing to call someone's baby beautiful when the baby is ugly. It's not in my nature. It's not an honest behavior. And when, and I know what a beautiful baby looks like. I had a beautiful baby. I had many friends who had beautiful babies. But then, on occasion, you get an ugly baby out there. But I'm not gonna I don't go out of my way and say that baby is ugly. But if someone says, isn't this baby beautiful? I'll just smile and just not say anything. Because it's better than lying. It's better than lying. But we are in an environment, you say that's baby's ugly. You're a sociopath, you're this, you're that, you're negative, you're all the other stuff. Now the ugly baby analogy also applies to the corporate environment or the PC culture. Within a short amount of time, many people change genders, identify themselves as different variety of things, and it is in its nature when we're first getting into something new, we do pack a level of insecurity because it's new to us and we are new in that environment. Thus, we don't know how we're going to present ourselves to the world so people can like us. That's an immense amount of insecurity when you change identities. And I'll go as simple as changing identity. As far as changing identity goes, just changing your name. I'm not talking about leaving a gender, moving into another gender, or I'm not talking about changing religions. I'm just talking about there are people who just change their names. Every time I was faced with this, the same question popped in my head. Well, how well were you doing with your former name, and you think now the new name is going to do you better? Because essentially, regardless of what kind of name tag you put on your chest, you're still equipped with what you have, your worldview, and how you've been approaching things, your habits. How do you manage people? How do you manage yourselves among people? That's all built-in stuff. Whether you change your name from Engin to Bob, the core of you is still Engin. That's what you're going to do with it. You're going to do the similar thing with Bob. Now, if I believe the whole the motivation to change a name is to give yourself a date. Like from here on out, as Bob, I'm going to be a better version of myself. This is equivalent of you say like, I'm going to start doing a diet on Monday. Well, today is Friday. Why don't you start today? Has always been my question. Why aren't you starting today? Why wait till Monday? If you're going to start that, if you're thinking about becoming better, why aren't you starting right now? And this whole like renaming, re-identifying things, it's really bets on how forgetful people are. People are extremely forgetful. People are extremely forgetful. Like we have forgotten the swine flu. We have forgotten SARS. We have forgotten that we need to take care of ourselves, our bodies, our family. And we forgot about these things. And now with a new name, we hope to do better than the last name. I don't think so. I don't think you're going to be successful. I don't think anybody becomes successful like that. Because you do not allow, with that mentality, You do not allow something to mature. Everything starts from seed. Even an idea is a seed. Or a plant is a seed. You plant it, you water it, you take care of it. If it's an idea, you put it in place, you nurture that idea, you put into work to make that idea flourish. And whether it's successful or not, only time and the amount of work that you put in has any effect on that. Whether you name it Bob, Lucy, Engin, Ahmed, Aisha, it makes no difference. So what happens by renaming and re-identifying things with, what happens there, you are now programming yourself to forget your failures. You gotta make the mistakes. You gotta make the mistakes so you can earn the wisdom. And the maturity is not repeating those silly mistakes. I call them rookie mistakes. And I'm an expert in mistakes. I've done so many mistakes. I've have lists, not a list, lists of failure. I've been fired more than once. For some of you, getting fired is like such a foreign subject, and you look down on people who've been fired. I have 2 unsuccessful marriages under my belt. I have my child from an out of marriage relationship, and I'm not together with my child's mom. Those are personal mistakes. And then academia. I went back to school good 3 years after I graduated from high school. I went back to university and finished it. And in those 3 years, I opened and closed businesses. I dabbled in other adventures and those failed. But I practiced failing. What do I do when I fail? What do I do when I fall? What do I do when I have limited amount of resources? And those taught me when you don't know, it's okay. It's okay when you don't know. It's perfectly fine when you don't know. And some of the things, like I started this podcast with that, you just don't know. They don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows at the end of this month if we're going to be able to go back to work. And the math doesn't check out anyway. Like, there is no end to this coronavirus. And is it as crazy as the swine flu that just came and went and all it was just a bunch of hype in TV? No, this is more than that. We're all, stay in shelter mode. This is more than that. More than that is happening right now. But the outcome, nobody can predict the outcome. Whether you have a couple of dollars in the bank, that's going to diminish. Whether you had this great idea, that's going to diminish as well in this environment. But it is all, we are here because we created an environment where asking questions became the wrong thing to do. People became timid about asking questions. Also, the people who have created this environment where people are timid to ask a question created so much noise So much noise. Incredible amount of noise. It's all this. It's all this. Just noise, 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 noise. Instead of receiving a question and hope to give it a reasonable answer for it. When I went to study psychology, you go over, genders, body dysmorphia and such. These are all part of the program before you earn your degree. And science looks at all these things with a different view. They just look at hard data, and then anything else that develops after that, they look at it with your social environment and other occurrences. And I'm not saying any of these hold water for your case, because if anybody's gay or any of the letters out there can maybe get irked up, but you're just different and you're a minority. You're a little bit different than what the nature has. Go for it. But the environment you've created where no one can ask you a question and no one can find out, or no one can even dare to challenge a simple idea of you because you belong to one of these small communities. The amount of noise that has been put together created the environment we're in right now. We cannot ask questions in fear of being labeled as racist, homophobe, transphobe, all the other phobes that you can tag to a different noun. It's all... It killed conduct. It's the murder of conduct. The environment you've created is because you don't know how to have a discussion. This group that created this timid environment, and when I say this group, I'm lumping in all the letters, all the political sides, all these people who are just like yelling at each other when they're in any type of disagreement. So nobody's safe when it comes to this statement that I'm about to share with you. You created this environment because you lack vocabulary. The language that you use doesn't have enough words in it to describe your situation. Or perhaps you are unaware of your situation. Most of the time that is the case. You are unaware of yourself. You don't know. You have no self-awareness when you enter a discussion, and when someone, your opponent, let's call that person, or let's call that me. Let's call that you're having a discussion with Engin. The number one failure that you're suffering from is the minute you discover that you are disagreeing with me, you leave the topic and then you start attacking me personally. I'm just saying me, this could be someone else. This is happening all the time. There's always one party in a debate that attacks the other side personally when there's a disagreement. This is just a simple disagreement. And the topic may not be personal. But the minute you choose to attack your opponent personally, you forget one thing. And this is when things spin out of control. The thing you forget is, with the personal attack, the doors you open in that debate, you forget that those are double-hinged doors, which means that door swings both ways. So when you kick that door with a personal attack that way, you completely forget that that door is gonna swing back, or it's perfectly capable of swinging back your way. And most of the time, you stand too close to that door, you think the door is gonna open the other way. And you are so surprised when that door swings your way and hits you in the face. And all that happens because you attack the person that you're in a debate with a personal comment. You say this because you are this, not you say this based on data, or the counter argument is not data based. It's just trying to diminish that person's status, that person's experience, that person's history, that person's integrity. Immediate war. Because this group of people, all they want to do is they want to be right. They don't want to learn. They don't want to help. All they want to do is they want to be right. And we are where we are because of these people, because of this group, this mentality. And this mentality, this type of behavior comes from many places. Number one, chances are you come from a fatherless family where someone didn't check you when you just spin out of control and start attacking people personally when you don't get it your way. Moms coddle. Unfortunately, moms coddle. Moms, like, what was it? The Achilles heel is this coddling, nurturing environment. That nature. And the lack of transition from birth, because the pregnancy, birth is that's where you're the nest. That's where you're the absolute protection for the baby. And once the baby is born, a lot of moms still stay in that nurturing, protective mode, rather than you need to shift to a new role where you need to be the guide. You need to be the guide for the child so that child can practice the emotional muscles to deal with the world. But overprotective environment creates these children who are cold, who are needy, who cannot stand the fact that things can go, a little different than they anticipated, and they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. They do not have the equipment to soothe themselves because someone always hugged them when they cried. You can cry, but that doesn't mean you need a hug every time you cry. So we did this to ourselves with the coronavirus or whatever our problem was before this. Before this, it was the pronoun game, or the politically correct word, or the race issue. Here you go. Race issue. We need to get off on that. I'm not saying there are no racist people, but that the idea is somebody is holding you down in today's American society. Somebody's holding you down. That's your conditioning. That's your conditioning. Because I've also seen same race people hold each other down. So holding down is not necessarily race specific. Holding down happens if they don't want you to get any further. But if your conditioning is, oh, this is not happening because of my race, there's no way you're going to recover from that. There's no way it's going to occur to you, hey, this is not the right environment for me to flourish. This is not the correct environment for me to be the best version of myself. And you won't leave. And actually, your conditioning based on how people make their judgments based on race and this and that, you become a slave of that thought, of that conditioning. Because it's easy to blame it on other people. It's easy to say, they didn't let me. They didn't do that for me. After all, yeah, if you did all that and they didn't pay you back, why would you do business with them anymore? It's the most simple law of business. If you do business with someone, which this can be your boss, your work, what have you, and if you believe the amount of work you put forth is not being rewarded, you're in the wrong place. You're in the absolutely wrong place. I mean, like I said, I've been fired twice, and both of the times I was done with that job long before they fired me. I just waited to get fired so I could A, collect my severance package, and also it was a good practice to just sit and have that conversation. Yeah, the ones who change their names, the one who constantly give themselves a new branding, this will sound familiar to you. You probably leave jobs often. You're just like, this is not good for me. You jump to the other one. This is not good for me. I don't recommend that either. You really got to watch something mature. And this is minimum of 2 years in an environment. Minimum of 2 years, because the first year, you're just watching the entire cycle of how this business works. The second year, you see the familiar patterns in the cycle. And say if you have done something like this for 4 years, now you got their playbook. And you can predict. And you don't even have to move much. All of a sudden, work becomes so easy. You can just manage that multi-million-dollar project just from where you're sitting. Now, in order to get fired, you have to call someone's child ugly. I'll tell you that. This is also a first-hand experience of mine. You got to tell people, hey, you're not getting it. And you're not getting it because here are the numbers. The numbers show that you're not getting it. And then they actually get the numbers, but those numbers suit their agenda. They're not interested in getting any better. And then they say, well, hey, if you don't like this, you might consider transitioning to another company. There's your sign. And then wait for about a year, they're going to let you go. You can collect your severance package and then cruise on to the next thing. That's the beauty of America too. You can like have these comeback child stories over and over again. And because people forget. And people love a comeback story in America. That's a whole nother beautiful thing. People love comeback stories. So, how do we start it? We start this because of the environment to ask questions. It just gets lost in the noise. Current noise is, I can't believe people are still complaining about Trump. Why are you complaining about your president? He is your president. You don't mean anything right now. He is the president. He's at the helm. And he's doing this. And it's not like... And there's this crazy understanding of the position as well. People think when you're a president, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. No, people, this is America. There are checks and balances. He can't just do whatever he wants to do. That's not how it works. And our current situation, if you're blaming it on Trump, maybe you need to take a nap. You're too tired. You're too hungry. You're just grumpy. It brings there's no added value about you complaining about Trump. You can tell me now, oh, but you just said you're making, I'm asking questions. You're not asking questions. You're using foul language. Speaking of foul language, when Trump first became president, the first gathering was the Women's March. My house is filled with women. I have a mother and I have a sister. I have 2 daughters. I want women to win. Why wouldn't I want women to win? I want everybody to win. We went out there to the Women's March here in Santa Rosa, and I was the only one with an American flag. I had an American flag scarf. I wore that. And there was one other guy on a flag on a stick. The third flag, which bugs me the most, was an American flag upside down, which means we are under siege. We are not. You have no idea what under siege looks like. You're clueless. You're clueless. You don't even know how to start a fire. You don't have the equipment. You don't have the capacity to even formalize what under siege looks like and what it feels like. So don't go around putting the flag upside down, because you're not having it your way or you disagree with it. This is the only country you have, and those people who have put the American flag upside down are probably looking up to God and saying, God bless America. I am so glad I am here during this pandemic. I speak with Turkey. So my high school friends are across the world, everywhere. And I speak with all of them. In Turkey, the economy is shut down. Very low cases because they shut down early. But economy is terrible. Economy was terrible before the shutdown. Italy probably shares similar, and they are just dealing with a higher death toll. You have it very cushy in America. So think about it again next time you put that flag upside down, how that feels.